I'm crying here.
Good afternoon and welcome to Matchday Live. It's Newcastle United versus Brighton. The season got a full squad out today with all the lads here, and of course the most important match, Super Malcolm MacDonald. Good afternoon, lads, and good afternoon, Malcolm.
Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Good afternoon to you all.
Right.
Great to have you on, Malcolm, as always. So we'll go with you first, and just to talk about the team, unchanged from the West Ham game. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody, really.
No, no. The only thing I thought was possibly they might find a bit of room for Fraser, but no, I'm quite happy that he's sticking with the same side, and it'll be interesting. I thought that in their first game, Brighton were quite organised, despite the fact that they got stuffed by Chelsea ultimately. So I think we really do need that power up front that was shown against West Ham, because last season it was so difficult for the back four to get out because nothing was happening up front. Now we've got an awful lot happening up front, and so I think that the whole thing is reversing itself almost from last season, and it's exciting. I find it really exciting, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. And of late, in the last couple of seasons, results against Brighton haven't been all that good, I have to say. So hopefully we can turn all of that around, and that maybe Steve Bruce has got a sort of a new beginning happening here at St James Park.
Yeah, I hope so, Malcolm. I think for me, the lads did enough last week to keep their places. In particular, Manquillo at right back did great. Jamal Lewis at left back, obviously on his debut, had a fantastic game. Hendrick, I think first half wasn't so good, second half came into it, but provided the vital assist for Callum Wilson to score on his debut. And Andy Carroll, of course, who we've been quite critical of over the last 12 months since he's returned to Newcastle. Was a nuisance and put himself about. Yeah. And quite lucky at the start of the game, Mal, not to get sent off with an elbow, but it was you need a bit of that in your team, and I'm glad to see that they're going with a big lad, little lad combination, which of course has worked so well in the past and worked well for you on many occasions at your clubs.
Absolutely, yes, and it gives so many options to midfielders and defenders when they're in possession, and for when they want to sort of be knocking it forward, which that just didn't happen last season. It was so rare. And from Joe Linton, who is the most disinterested Premier League player I think I've ever seen in my life, going from him all of a sudden to all this movement going on up front, it's absolutely wonderful. For defenders, fullbacks, they've got a variety of balls that they can play, whereas there was nothing last season, and it was square and back all the while. Now we can play it forward.
Yeah, Isaac Hayden's in there, Malcolm. I know when we did the show with Gibbo this week, the jury's not out with Isaac Hayden, but there seems to be a lot of fans split on him. Are you pleased to see him still in there alongside Shelby and Hendrick?
No. I don't know what people actually see in him. I find him rather pedestrian, and he plays sideways and backwards. What we want in there are people who can play it forward, and I don't see Hayden doing it. He ambles forward now and again, but you never see anything explosive from him. And to get success in the Premiership, you need explosive players.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly understand that, Malcolm. And that's your thing. That's the great thing, we're spoiled for choice in that midfield zone. So it'll be interesting to see how things progress. Jamal Lascelles in there as well as captain and alongside Fernandez. Of course, we've already mentioned Manquillo and Lewis, but good centre half pairing, Malcolm, Fernandez and Lascelles. Tottenham have just taken a 2-1 lead. By the way, Son's got his second goal there away to Southampton, so it's Southampton 1, Tottenham 2. But yeah, are you happy with that centre half pairing?
I am, yes. I think it could be improved on, but I think that Fernandez is really showing himself to be a tower of strength. I think he's a good organizer, and I get the feeling that he's spotted and understands Lascelles' weaker areas, and he just nicely fills in. So when you've got centre halves doing that, filling in for one another, then it can make a very good combination. And also Manquillo, he'll get forward. And I certainly did like the look of Jamal Lewis at fullback, and there's pace, of course, in front of him with Alan St. Maximin, who I would dearly love to see him get a goal, and because what I noticed last season was that he, above all, gets a massive boost of confidence having scored.
Yeah. Somebody's asked us on YouTube, but I haven't seen problems coming on screen today, so I'll have to do it off the YouTube feed. But from Lee Robinson, Malcolm, is Joe Linton someone we should persevere with as a sub or cut our losses? Surely playing Almiron up front in place of Joe Linton may deliver more. So obviously, Joe Linton's obviously going to be, obviously always on some Newcastle fans' lips. He's on the bench there today alongside Gillespie, Clark, Richie, Kraft, Fraser and Almiron. What's your take on that?
For me, he's just dead in the water. And that's as near to a positive sub as ever he'll get. I don't think he's interested in playing football. Never mind whether it's for Newcastle or anybody else. What I don't ever see him do is sprint. Now, who's heard of a forward who never sprints? And he seems to be pushed over too easily by centre halves. He's a big lad. He's 6'3", and well built, and yet he keeps falling over, being pushed over, and I just get the feeling that he hasn't got it. He knows he hasn't got it. And so he's I think he's even happy just to be out the side. I really do. I wouldn't think that he's gone and argued with Steve Bruce that he should be in the side, and he's got no basis to make the argument anyway.
Yeah. Okay, you've seen the team, guys. Chris, what's your take on the unchanged team, mate?
I like the squad that we had against West Ham. I think it'll be interesting to inject some pace late. Steve Bruce didn't really handle subs well when he had 5 subs and even with 3 subs. So I'd like to see how he handles Almiron, Fraser, and maybe even Richie off the bench late in the game to inject some pace to really push the defenders when they're tired, and maybe if we need critical subs in the second half, if we're tied or a goal down, maybe if Steve Bruce plays the subs right, getting Almiron, Fraser, and Richie in there could make a difference, but we'll see.
Yeah, it sounds not great, Chris. I'm not sure why, but Bernie, it's a question to you.
I'm And it's usual Bruce, isn't it? He picks the same team the next week, same one again. But for me, I'm agree with Malcolm. I think Caden's a bit overrated in the middle. And I think the Celtics is as well. I think the weakest part we've got at the moment is the middle of the park. The midfield and the defence, for me. The wingers are sorted. The left back and the right back are sorted. Goalkeeper's looking all right. And the centre forward's looking all right. Mm-hmm. For me, it's them though. I agree with totally what Malcolm just said there.
Yep. Okay, Adam, same question to you, mate. You happy with this starting lineup?
Yeah, I've been saying for the last couple of shows that I thought we had to go with an unchanged lineup. I think everyone that beat West Ham deserves to get another shot. So I'm not surprised. Happy that the team is lined up. But I agree with Malcolm and I agree with Spenny that the problem we've got is that middle is so slow. I'm a big Isaac Hayden fan, but I think in a defensive formation, he really helps with that work in the middle. But when we're playing at home and we're trying to attack, even with an empty stadium, unfortunately, we need a little bit more pace and flair. I said that on the show yesterday. So Shelby will do a lot of the forward passing work and Hayden will do a lot of the tidying up, but there's no real pace and creativity in there. And it's the same with the two at the back, to Spenny's point, having Lascelles and Fernandez, not a lot of pace in there. Fernandez does cover Lascelles very well. Today's about a big physical team, though, isn't it? Brighton are a big group, particularly at the back. So very, very happy with going with two up front. I think Carroll will help out. Carroll versus Dunk will be a really interesting battle. I think Daz said that yesterday. So lots of interesting fights across the field. But yeah, again, I expected it to be 4-4-2, and I expected it to be unchanged. Great options off the bench, though, particularly in Almiron and Fraser. A little surprised that Sean Longstaff's not on the bench. Don't know if he's hurt, but there's no centre midfielder on the bench, which is a bit funny, seeing as we were talking about how we've got 5 or 6 options in there. So that's quite interesting to see how the game plays out. But nice options anyway, and I think the 4-4-2 will work great.
Yeah, me too. I'll just go through some of the comments on YouTube. As I say, we're having difficulties getting them on the screen today, so I'll go through them. Kevin Lloyd predicts a 2-1 win to Newcastle. Andy Barr says it's great to see an unchanged team, no injuries. The Big G157 says 3-1 to Newcastle. Lee Robinson says the power of Carroll and pace of Wilson versus Dunk will be interesting. Maybe more goals than usual. Geordie Jedi likes the thought of 3-1. John Justice Allen says 3-0. Come on. Andy Barr says I'm going for a 2-0 or a 2-1 win today. Covering these options there. I hope you've got both bets on. Mr. Sozie says 2-0 all day long. John Justice Allen also says it's a decent bench with impact subs, Almiron and Fraser. Darren Cowan says, where is Sorensen and would you give him a chance in the cup game? We'll come to that once we've got round the lads' views on the team. Troll says ASM is our best player. And Albert Mooney says, Hendrick good last week, but Almiron has to play at home. It's Brighton, not Liverpool. The Big G says, Joe Linton's a lost cause. We need to let go and get Troy Deeney. Chris Collins says, I'd sooner see Gillespie come on as a striker before Joe Linton. Funko Freddy says, Thomas Brolin never sprinted, but by God, could he pinpoint a cross or shot? And Colin Wilson says, Joe Linton's very fortunate that there aren't any crowds to reflect his performance. Troll says, can't blame Joel for putting Bruce in as a forward, though he is lazy. And Lee Robinson says, we're not getting that £40 million back for Joe Linton anytime soon. Steve Mugford says what we would all agree with, and that is he's glad to see Alweed back. Alweed, obviously, good to see you back on the show, mate, after your bad news this week. Our thoughts were with you, and obviously dedicate the show, the other night, to your relative who you lost. So we're very sorry to hear that, mate. And Naka Ned says, agree with Chris. Bruce is obviously hoping to inject some pace later in the game once the Brighton defenders are showing signs of tiredness. Thanks for that. Anyone who gets the comments through, I will read out throughout today's Jazz. Over to you with regards to the team. I'll quickly flash it on so that we don't blow, but there's your starting lineup. If anyone hasn't seen it, Daz, your views on that?
Yeah, no, happy with the team, Steve. Delighted that Carl is in. As I was saying yesterday, and as Adam touched on it, yeah, that he's going to be key on both ends of the pitch today. Just on Hayden, and just slightly to disagree with Malcolm, I think he's necessary for us, he mops up. He kind of plays what I call the David Batty role. He keeps things clean for us. And just on the Brighton squad that I saw flash up as well on the TV, I see the Irish lad Connolly is in. He's a nippy striker. He's one to keep an eye on as well. He could be dangerous for us.
Okay, Daz, thanks very much. Nothing wrong with disagreeing with people, mate. It's what makes Newcastle United a great football club. Your views on the starting lineup. Welcome to Geordie Dennis. We'll come to you in a minute. Your views.
Any worries, mate? You all right?
Yeah, good. Nathan, your views on the team, mate?
Yeah, I think we were talking yesterday about how we might possibly fit Ryan Fraser into that team, going off like his good performance midweek. But I think with the way that the lads played last weekend, it would have been difficult to change it. And then to fit Fraser into that team, I think we'd have had to change the formation. We saw the sort of 4-3-3 that we were playing midweek against Blackburn wasn't really. We didn't have the best personnel in there, but I think our shape was a lot better last week on the Sunday. I think it would have been foolish to sort of change that shape just to kind of accommodate a player that played well midweek. So I'm glad he stayed with the two up top. That's what we need to do. We need to, against these teams where we can look to take the game to them and take points off them. We need to be doing that wherever possible. I think like the lads have mentioned, covered much of it pretty much. But I think the Almiron's impact when he came on against West Ham was really good. He was full of running, caused them a lot of problems, and made life difficult for them. And it's not what you want at like 70 minutes into the game when people haven't had a full sort of pre-season and the legs are going a little bit kind of thing. So yeah, I thought it was that's a good option, and Fraser to come on as well is also another good option. I think in terms of the centre midfield, it didn't seem so long ago to me where Isaac Hayden signing a new contract was kind of universally welcomed by fans, and then it seems like some fans now are kind of going back on that a little bit and not appreciating what he does for the team. I think he's a tidy player, and I think he does the quiet stuff that goes unnoticed in a lot of games. He turns over possession. I think I was looking at the stats. I think he turned over possession like 11 times for us in the West Ham game. He gets stuck in the tackles, and that's something that we really missed on the game against Blackburn. We didn't have that bite in midfield, and when he's putting himself around in that midfield, the difference is really obvious to see. I think it's in some of the games. So I like that we've got that sort of punch in midfield. I mean, I'm not for a second saying he's as good as this guy, but when you look at the Man City team that won the title a few seasons ago compared to last season, when they took Fernandinho out of that centre midfield role and put him into centre defence, they were a completely different team and they were nowhere near as good. And I think that we don't really have anyone who can do that job that he does, whether you rate him or not, whether he's the best at doing that job or not. I think you get stuck in, and that's something that we don't really have in our midfield.
Yeah, okay, Nathan, thanks. Mitch, your take on the starting lineup?
Not a surprise, really. I think everybody did enough to retain their starting positions. You can't really chop and change based on the fact that okay, we've got some more players available, but the players that did well against West Ham have deserved to keep their shirts.
Yeah, no, I would agree, mate. I would agree, and I don't think anybody's surprised at all that it's unchanged. From my perspective, I think everyone deserves another chance, and hopefully we'll get the same kind of performance and the same kind of result. Andre, over to you, mate.
Let me tell you my opinion on Hayden while Supermax is away. Yeah. Actually, I think he deserves great credit for his massive improvement. I think he didn't have a great season in 17-18, and then 18-19 at the start he got this red card against Cardiff, and I think a lot of fans were on his back, and I think a lot of people wrote him off. And he deserves a great credit for the massive improvement he's had, and throughout all his personal trouble that he went through. I think most people know that he had these family issues, like his young daughter was sick for some time, and he had to go back and forth to London and Newcastle all the time. And at the same time, he was one of the most consistent players in 18-19 and also last season. So I rate him and I respect him. I also don't think he's world-class player, but he has a great work rate, and I also agree with Nat that every good team needs a player in his mode. Like probably N'Golo Kante is a very upgraded version of what a player like Hayden could be. But I'm a fan of Isaac Hayden, and I like he signed the contract extension, and also probably means that his personal issues are behind him. Only thing that I expected the starting lineup today, but the only thing that concerns me is the lack of pace. Only Alan Saint-Maximin and Callum Wilson have a bit of pace, while the rest of the midfield and the attack are a bit slow. So I don't know how the game will unfold. But it's good that on the bench you have Fraser and Almiron who can change things in the second half. But let's hope. I really have high hopes on Andy Carroll this game. I think that he's due a goal after more than 2 years in the Premier League without a goal, and 10 years since his last goal for Newcastle. So I have this good vibe that Andy
I hope you're right. That would be good. Good to see Andy Carroll score again at St James's Park. Al Walid, welcome back, mate. Your take on the team today?
Hi guys. At the beginning, I would like to thank all of you, the fans who send me condolences and received message last 2 days. Totally appreciate it. Regarding the game today, I think it's a winning squad. We see last game it was almost no mistake. So I think Mr. Bruce want to continue on this formation. And I think I would like really to see this formation against one of the top 6 teams to really test it. And regarding, I looked through some statistic regarding past games. We didn't beat Brighton 3 years ago. Since 3 years, maybe last win was 2017. Last 6 it was in Championship. Last 6 games in Premier League, 4 loss and 2 draw, and this must be end hopefully today.
Yeah, Mike, Steve.
You've got the mic virus off us.
You sound like Daft Punk, Steve.
Yeah, apologies, lads. I lost the sound. I've got a load of technical issues today for some reason. Not 100% sure why. So sorry, Al Walid. I missed all of what you said. Just trying to rectify the issues. But yeah, back to normal now. If I do drop out, guys, just keep the shows going, and I will try and rectify this. A bit disappointing with what's going on with StreamYard, and no way of being able to contact them either, which is a bit disappointing when you pay for the service. So not a great deal we can do there. I just want to go through Steve Bruce's program notes, which obviously Lee Ryder just put out. It's a big game for us, given the promising start we've made. We know if we get 3 points, it'll mean we've had a very good opening to the campaign. I watched Brighton against Chelsea last Monday, and they're a good side. And we saw last season how difficult they are to play against. And that backs up a little bit, I suppose, Chris, what Malcolm said before we lost his signal. And you know, we don't have a particularly great record against Brighton. They're always tight games, usually quite boring games. And, you know, it isn't going to be a formality today, Chris.
Yeah, I was actually there for the last time that we beat Brighton at Brighton, but I've also been there for losses and for 0-0 turgid draws. So it does kind of seem that they've had our number ever since we're in the championship battle with them. I just feel like maybe they're well drilled and they play 5 at the back, so we have trouble scoring with them, and then maybe are vulnerable to the occasional counterattack. But let's, you know, like you said with Joelinton, let's have a clean slate, and maybe we'll just turn the page on our Brighton woes, and you know, optimistically look to set a new chapter and go forward from there. So hopefully.
Yeah, fair enough. Mitch has nipped off. He's, as you'll have noticed, Mitch had a strange pair of spectacles on there, guys. That's because Mitch is currently at work. He is the Geordie dentist there. He says he's off to sort another victim out before the game. So interesting. Martin Nesbitt, who usually joins us, can't today. He says, how are the lads on the road? Hopefully see you all at the second half sometime. Sparkoid says, I sound like somebody auditioning for Kraftwerk. Hopefully my sound issues are improved now, lads. Hopefully that's a bit better. Switching it off and switching it on, that old-fashioned way of fixing your sound. Hopefully that's worked a little bit more. You all sound a bit better as well. Jason White did notice that Mitch was in a costume for the next Ghostbusters movie. Yeah, he is already done. It's not a nickname. Albert Mooney says we need Samantha on the panel. She has great insight. We do invite all the ladies on a regular basis, so I'm sure they might dip in and out and join us today at some point. Knackanhead says, poor Mitch working on a Sunday. No wonder he can afford all these fancy watches. Hayden is like Hayden's like a Toyota, says Roger Cook. No offense, anyone. Safe, sound, and boring. Doesn't deliver forward enough. Simon Davis says, afternoon, lads. Big test against Brighton today. We shall see starting the same 11. Bench Clark replaces Sean Longstaff. How are the lads? It needs to be a total different mentality to the West Ham game. We need to put these lot away. And Stephen Frost says, Andre is right about pace. I've seen Joe Linton to try and keep up with Almiron, who had the ball, by the way. Joe Linton gave up trying to support, forcing Almiron to take the shot, as there was no support. That's a good point, Stephen Frost. George Boyle says, Brighton are a bit of a bogey team, but I believe we have a better team this season. I think Newcastle will win 3-1. And Martin says, Callum Wilson tells Sky his granddad was a Newcastle fan and passed away during lockdown. And that's... another interesting stat about Callum Wilson has an affiliation with the Northeast. Troll says this match can easily be a 0-0, but I hope not. So, Spenny, Steve Bruce, obviously, commenting there, saying it's going to be a tough game against Brighton. Is he right? They are a bit of a bogey team. Some of the comments today from the fans have said as much. What's your thought?
Well, if you look at the results, the past results has all been 1-0s and 0-0s, and not many goals in the games. They come more like defensive mind, like just to nick the points, really. Defensive mind. Ones I've been to the games of Brighton, it's all been like behind the ball sort of thing, counter attack, and then hit them on the break. I think that's what will happen. All I'm worried today is that right hand side, because the first half last Saturday against West Ham, I thought everything was going on the left hand side, nothing going on the right. And when he changed it in the second half, it was a bit better because Hendricks moved in the middle. I think Hayden went off, didn't he, for someone? And Almiron come on or someone. Anyway, that's the only negative I think at the moment is that right-hand side wing.
Okay. Adam, your takes it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that they are a bit of a bogey team. I was actually at the game last year at St James's Park when we had 20-30% possession against them. It was a terrible, terrible game. We were very lucky to get a 0-0. I think we are a better team this year, as someone commented. We're a better squad as well. So, like I said earlier, Steve's got better options off the bench, which will make a nice change. I think what's really going to be important in this game in particular, but also throughout the season against these teams that will be around us, is how Bruce manages in game, which he did a terrible job of last year. Someone made that comment earlier with his substitutions were very, very bad generally throughout the season. So hopefully he gets the substitutions right and the game management right today. It's going to make a big difference. But I agree that this is a team that we don't tend to play very well against other than in the Championship. So I'm hoping we can break that duck today and come out with a much, much stronger performance.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think what we're going to do is with the show, guys, shut the studio down and start the issues with the technicals. We'll kind of get the comments up on the screen, and the sound is you hearing me, getting a lot of comments as well from people saying my sound's not great. So let's close down and we'll start again, guys. Okay, I'll send you a new link and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.